Hello and welcome to another video edition of the 3% Club, where we talk all about mindset, strategies, tips, and tricks that you need to know in order to become part of the 3% of people who actually publish a book. So today we're going to be talking about a writing craft tip that will get you more readers. Now, I don't want to be deceiving with that title at all, because although writing craft can help you absolutely get more readers, it doesn't necessarily guarantee success by any means. We've all read a book that was beautifully written and yet nobody knows about it. And we've also, on the flip side, have read a book that was terribly written and somehow blew up, right? So just because you can write well does not necessarily guarantee you success, unfortunately. But when you write well, when you engage people's emotions, which we'll talk about more today, when you do that really well and engage their emotions, they're more likely to themselves be engaged and then transformed. And when they're transformed and they get results and see and have this almost emotional experience with your book, they're more likely to tell other people about it. And when they tell other people about it, those people are more likely to read it themselves, because we are substantially more likely to read a book that someone recommended to us than if we just saw it on the shelf or on Amazon. Okay, so if you can really get people emotionally engaged in your book, that's when you have more of a likelihood to get more readers and get more people more interested in what you have to say. And if you look at some of these books that maybe were not super well written but still somehow blew up, it likely is because they were appealing to people's emotions. They were really engaging with people in a way that maybe a lot of other books weren't, or were just giving a transformation that a lot of people really needed, and they kind of didn't care whether or not it was well written or not. The good news for you, who I know wants to write well, is that you can do both. You can write really well and you can be successful with your book. You can do both. And my hope is to help you get there. So this writing craft tip came from a coaching call from last week. So I've been working with a coaching client, and she came to me because she has years of journal entries, but she's ready to compile them and pull them together and like make it into a book. And so, but she just isn't really sure about the strength of her writing, how she can make it a little bit tighter, a little bit stronger, more cohesive, so that it's ready for a book. And so we've been meeting on Zoom, talking it through. She sent me a couple of samples, I've read it through, and then on our calls we talk a lot more. We go a lot more in depth. I give her some editorial feedback and then some direction for where to go with her next steps to help make this book a reality. And one of the big pieces of feedback that I had for her was that she was using a lot of abstract language. She was using abstract language, which meant that she was telling us instead of showing us. So you might have heard about show versus tell in your English class if you had a great English teacher, or maybe as you've been doing more research and study on writing craft. We talk about this a lot. We talk a lot about showing versus telling, and there's a reason for that. It's incredibly important to use specific language to show someone instead of tell them. Let me give you an example from outside of the writing world of why this is so important. So imagine like a cooking show, right? Or Rachel Ray, okay? Like she comes out and she's got all of her perfectly portioned out ingredients, and she is going to show you how to bake a cake, right? Like you pour in the oil, you whisk the eggs, all of that. Like she's going to show you how that she bakes a cake. And then by the end, you see it come out, and like you are super engaged in the making of this chocolate cake. Now, that's her showing you. Imagine what it would be like if she instead just came out and sat on a chair in front of the audience and just told you how to bake a cake. She told you that you need to whisk 2 eggs, and then you need to pour in the flour at the same time, and then once you put it in the oven, it comes out as a chocolate cake. Like, that's incredibly boring. right? Like nobody is going to watch that. No one's going to be engaged by that. The reason is because she's telling you how to bake a cake instead of actually showing you how to bake a cake. And the reason why that is more engaging is because she is using more senses in this demonstration than if she were to just tell you. Okay, so when you watch her bake that cake, you are using your eyes and you are watching it. You're also engaging other senses as well. You can hear the whisking of the eggs. You can hear, the opening and closing of the oven. There's some emotional component in the hearing of it all. And then you can't directly smell it, but we've all had experiences with chocolate cake, and so we know what it smells like, right? Like even now, I can smell a chocolate cake and I really want one. So it's engaging all of my senses, or many of my senses, as I'm watching her. And it's just so much more compelling versus just sitting there and listening and being told how to bake a cake. So as writers, we have to overcome the differences in mediums. So we've got video out there, like you're watching right here. You are engaging in a lot of your senses as you watch this video. But as a writer, you have to overcome the hurdle of not being able to engage the senses in the same way as like a video would, okay? You have to be so specific with your audience so that their senses get engaged. And when their senses get engaged, that's when they get more emotionally invested in what you have to say. And with more emotional investment comes a greater transformation and a more likelihood that they are to share your book with their friends and colleagues and other people. So how do you do that? How do you engage their senses? One of the best ways to do that is to look at your language. Look at your language. Are you using very specific words, or are you using more abstract, general words and ideas? So examples of this are, she was beautiful, or it was an incredible experience, or I felt bad. Okay, those are very generic ideas. I don't really know how to feel about those. They're just kind of abstract, and my idea of beautiful is different than your idea of beautiful. My idea of feeling bad is different than your idea of feeling bad. And so it's so unspecific that it's hard to latch onto. It's hard to have any kind of emotion towards it. So this is when you get a lot more specific. So instead of saying she was beautiful, you would say she had long flowing black hair that was braided and she was wearing a silky green dress, and you explain what she looked like. Then that allows the reader to engage in a different way, and they can picture that in their mind. And they can decide for themselves whether they think she was beautiful or not. They can infer that she's probably beautiful. She's all dressed up, and if the guy is looking at her in complete awe, they can tell she looked beautiful. But you've engaged their senses in a whole deeper way and shown instead of told, and made the reader lean in a whole lot more. So instead of saying, I felt bad, say, like, tell me what that experience was for you. Did you feel bad because you hurt someone's feelings, and so you go home and you crash on the bed and you just start weeping because you cannot believe that you just did that, and you felt so bad and so guilty, and it felt like a rock in your stomach and you never wanted to see the light of day again? What emotional, physical experience can you express through your words? Now, fiction writers use this all the time, but nonfiction writers absolutely can use this. And I think it's a fault in nonfiction writers in thinking that this is irrelevant information, because this is incredibly important to engage your audiences in a completely new way. When you use those emotional words and create a very specific scene with specific language, that's when you can engage your audience in a whole new way. And when you engage your audience in a whole new way like this, that's when they are more likely to refer to other people. So this is your action step, is look at your current work in progress. If you've got a manuscript, a blog post, whatever it is, and look for abstract words like beautiful, incredible, bad, good, whatever it is, those kind of abstract words. and ask yourself how you can go deeper. How can you engage the senses in a much more practical way that pulls people in? Try it, then let me know how it goes, because I can almost guarantee you it is going to strengthen your manuscript and it is going to get people a lot more engaged. Try it, let me know. I want to hear. I hope this was really helpful for you, and I will see you next week.